I like D&D. It's a lot of fun. You've got improvisational acting, you've got immersive storytelling, and you've got math. What's not to love? And in my time playing D&D with my main D&D group, I've played a lot of characters. And not all of that is my fault. You see, in our group, we have our benevolent DM, Caleb, and he's killed a lot of my characters. In all honesty, I didn't want to just make a video ranting about all the characters he killed. I actually just wanted to make a video about all of my characters, because it's fun, they're weird, and I wanted to show off some of the voices I do with it, because it's fun to make weird voices. Real quick, I should mention, I'm going to be showing the tokens that we used. These tokens are almost completely and totally all stolen art. They're not mine. If I can find the original picture, I'll post a link to it, but chances are it's just kind of gone, so for the most part, these are not ours. They're just pictures we found on Google Images. So to start off, let's start off with the most disappointing characters. Not because I tried to make them disappointing, just because they were. To start off, why not go with the character I literally remember nothing about? The Tortle monk, Kawasaki. He was a Tortle monk, because I wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. I literally remember nothing else about him. I would be doing a voice if I remembered his voice. Ninja Turtle. That's it. Now, as sad as it is to not remember anything about the character, even a voice, it's even more sad when you forgot about a character completely and they weren't even on your list. And taking that place is the Black Dragonborn Warlock, Drath. This was for a side story from our main campaign when our friend Alyssa couldn't make it. And honestly, he was a neat idea. The basic gist of it was where there was this one character, Qrkldrth, who was a main character in the main story, but I won't get into that because it's complicated. He was trying to recapture something. He was trying to get a phoenix, essentially. And he hired us friends to help him. I say friends because the only thing I really remember about Drath was that he was going to backstab Qrkldrth. We knew in universe that Qrkldrth was going to die. I thought might as well have fun with it. And I just realized I should be talking in his voice because he was a very rough, scratchy kind of person. And there's a reason I'm not doing his voice because that'll kill my throat really soon. And I've got, how many more characters do I got to go through? Oh, it's 11. I've got 11 more characters. Ooh, this is gonna be good. So the problem with it is we never actually finished that one shot. It just didn't work out that way. We had the one shot where we were gonna go and get the Phoenix. I just never got back to it. By the time we had a chance to get back to it, that campaign was over. So we just kind of one time in the middle of a session decided how it ended, and I don't know what happened to Drath. So I just don't have much to say about him because nothing happened. I guess I could look at his character sheet to see what he had. No, I don't care enough. It was Drath. I forgot about him. He deserves no more spot on this video. Now, those are the characters I forgot about and literally just didn't have much to say on. Now we'll go to the characters that didn't die. At least, not by Caleb's hand. Or anyone else's hand for that matter, but we'll just the characters that didn't get killed and actually ended the campaign that they were in alive. I guess we'll start off with most disappointing again, which is sad because it's the character I ended the last campaign in. And that character would be Tepin, also known as Tapumi Ingsali. So whenever Tepin introduced himself, he would introduce himself with this little bit of a monologue that I'm just going to read straight off of Roll20 because I honestly can't remember it. He would say, I am Tapumi Ingsali of the Chepua clan, leader of none, servant of death. This character was so disappointing for reasons that I'll admit are my fault. So, as I mentioned, this was the second character I played in our main campaign. I'll get into the first one later. I partially built him in a way that would be a little more resilient to Caleb. I also built him in a way that ended up being irrelevant to the story. And that was the main problem I had with him. I guess I should mention, he was a Tabaxi Warlock Rogue, Pact of the Blade. There we go. The basic idea is he was part of this Tabaxi clan that was in the northern Gfldlr Basin, I think. He was the son of the main leader of that clan, and he didn't like how his dad was handling things. He decided to kind of betray them and to make his dad act how he wanted him to. Ended up not working too well. We never exactly laid it out, but from what I remember, he turned in information to one of the 7 serpents. Then they used that information to come in, kill a bunch of their people, and he didn't go as he'd planned. So he lived his life as a bit of an urchin. He would steal a lot of things. He had a lot of rings on his hands because some of them were magic, and he wanted to hide the fact that he was wearing magic rings by just wearing lots of rings. And it was a really fun idea. The problem was, we figured out canonically, there were like 7 like main serpents who were in this campaign, and we realized that the one who would most logically have killed his clan was the same one that was already dead. And so he didn't have a lot of direction because the one person he really wanted to kill was gone already. And it was at that point I realized I'd made a mistake. I mean, he was still fun. Pact of the Blade Warlock was cool, but he was pretty much just a mouth and a sword. He used him for charisma rolls. It got a little more interesting later. The thing was, he had one of his magic rings was actually holding the soul of his former god. Air quotes for a reason that I won't explain because it's complicated and messy and whatever. Essentially, he was wearing a ring of mind shielding that was holding the soul of the former god of death. Their clan used that as kind of a spiritual item sort of thingy, and it was passed down through generation to generation. It was essentially how the god of death was staying alive. And that character was Tabai, and is who I ended up playing because after Tepin felt like a failure, because he kind of was a bit of a failure, they switched bodies. He got a little more interesting after that because then he had more of a goal. The problem was his goal was just to enjoy life because he'd been trapped inside this ring for, I don't know, hundreds of years at this point. And so he was just glad to be free. So he also had no goals in life. So I inadvertently just ended up making his story irrelevant. And it was kind of sad because then I couldn't do anything with him. And it was still fun playing, but it just was especially frustrating after my main character had more relevance to play someone who essentially could have not been there. And it wouldn't have made much of a difference. Not that, like, I have to be the most important character in the story. It would have just been nice if anything he had done felt like it mattered. If it sounds like I'm coming off as bitter, I'm not. It's just that when you have something going for 3 years, it's hard to really condense down everything into like a quick few minutes. So I'm not bitter. If you have watched the campaign, you kind of maybe get what I mean. But just the way it is, this is the simplest I can put it. He just wasn't relevant, and it was kind of sad. But it was still fun, and technically, Tabai is still alive. He's probably still in that ring of mind shielding. I don't know if that will become relevant, probably not, but it's fun to think about. There's a character that Caleb can't kill. The next one was such a fun character that I'm going to be saying this a few times, but I wish I could have played this in a main campaign. The character was and he was a Goliath fighter. The way I thought of this character was I had been playing a lot of charismatic characters, a lot of characters that ended up being the person who was talking to everyone. And I don't mind that. I just, for once, wanted to try something different. And so I thought, what if I created a character that literally couldn't talk? So how I played him was he was a Goliath that had a wooden mask kind of covering his face, specifically just his mouth area. And it turned out what happened is some beings, I don't remember what, had cut off his lips and his tongue. Yeah, it was a bit messed up. And it's why he was called because literally the only sounds he could make was And so he was And he was really fun. He was a bit cruel at times, but generally sweet in certain areas. It would have just been a fun thing to play through that, because essentially all he wanted was to get his mouth and tongue back. So, cast true restoration, I think the spell is, get his mouth and tongue back. And I like to imagine that he did, and we just didn't get to play through that. Honestly, he was a cool character. I wish I could have played him more. And now we get to another character who technically is still alive. Not even technically, he is still alive. And he's Boujee. Boujee was a half-orc druid swarm keeper ranger. I got his idea from a meme about a ranger that's essentially a chicken farmer. So he was a chicken farmer druid. His story ended up being was that he was wandering around as a druid, and all of a sudden, the god of chickens decided to choose him as his, I don't know, vassal and essentially babysit his chickens. You know, generally the story would have just ended there. The thing was, the reason the god of chickens wanted him to watch all of his celestial chickens is because he was busy with some stuff in the god realm, whatever that was called. I don't exactly remember. And the god of chickens ended up dying. And when that happened, Boodsy became the god of chickens, which is a sentence I just said. Not the weirdest thing I've said on this channel, but still a sentence I have said. The funny thing about this too is, since I had all of these and decided I had all the chickens, I was going to name all of the chickens, and I did. I'm looking over, I'm like, okay, roll call. We got Susan, Georgia, Wally, Beaker, Katie, Prunella, Holly, Dot, Rosie, Frizzy, Zippy, Lisa, Muffin, Truffles, Waddles, Henrietta, Tweetums, Luffy, Zelly, Comet, Juniper, Violet, Abigail, Nanny, Lulu, Queenie, Tiffy, Reese, Mrs. Pex, Daisy, Poppy, Squawkins, Tootsie, Doodle, Esther, and Unida. All here. So yeah, Boodsy was fun. He was also how I tested out a later character, but we'll get into that later. And now we get into another character. I really wish I could have played more, but it's just, maybe next time I'll play a character like this, but not now. And this was the Kenku Ranger Twig Snap. And I'm not doing a voice for this because if you know how Kenku work, I can't, because they just repeat the noises they've heard, and I played him like that, and it was so much fun. I had a list of words to start off with, based off of like the basic backstory I gave to him, and just slowly started writing down things that were repeated as time went on, and only used those as things I could say, and it was so much fun. Granted, might not work for more than a one-shot, but it was so much fun. He ended up being a servant to some like Time Lord, so technically he's also still alive, which makes me happy. And there's also the fact that I may have inadvertently settled how this Time Lord servants work, because Caleb played another Kenku in our current campaign, and he also had to do this where he could only speak in words he'd heard, and it was very funny. Like I said, I'd like to play a Kenku again and stick to this can only say things that have been heard, but it might just be too complicated, but it was very fun. Last on the living characters, but certainly not least, is one of my favorites. I'm gonna have to read this because I can't remember all of them. The Aasimar Wizard Fighter Warlock Adeline. And darling, was she fun to play. I got the voice from me and my friend Jordan's playthrough of Chrono Cross, playing Harley, who's a French clown. I just enjoyed it so much talking like this. And oh boy, was she quite the character. Just a no-nonsense kind of girl who's also very dangerous and very deadly, eventually getting the name of Adeline the Invincible. Quite literally, I built Adeline as a, let's see if Caleb can kill this. I got the build online and it was so much fun. This is who I wish Tepin would have been. It was a character who was fun to play, with combat that was so much fun, and just, it was so much fun being Adeline. The only reason she's not technically still alive and not Adeline the Immortal is because Alyssa ruined it for me, and I'm not gonna let that go. But sadly, she didn't end up getting to eat this magical apple that would have given her immortality. So she's dead. But I like to imagine that she went out in a blaze of glory. No, she definitely went out in a blaze of glory. She wouldn't have died any other way. It would have been combat, and she would have done it while saying, darling. Unfortunately, that was the last character that survived. And now we get on to the ones that Caleb killed. And yes, Caleb, I'm blaming you. Even if technically some of these weren't your fault, I'm still blaming you. And we'll start off with the blue dragonborn paladin, Muldraq. Mudrak was a priest from this village, and he came to help. I will admit I do not remember the story at all. This was first real casualty of my characters, and was reason I built Tepin and Adeline the way I did, because Muldraq died very bad death by getting beaten half by dog, because he had no weapons and no spells, and had literally nothing he could do. It was sad. Not much more to say about Muldraq, other than bitten half by dog. So let's move on to the next character, and the one that by far has to be the strangest one I've ever built. And another one that I'm gonna have to read the name because, well, you'll see. He was a rock gnome wizard, and his name was Gefeldlard Dngrm Krlpws Qrkldrth. His mom hated vowels. I don't remember why, but she hated them. Or I just wanted to see the longest name I could make without using any vowels. I think I succeeded. I don't remember the voice I made for him. He was just a grumpy old gnome, and he died by casting Fireball at someone that was their pet. Didn't look like their pet, looked like a monster to me. Yeah, he died. Nothing much to say about him either. He was just grumpy. The most notable thing of his was his name, which I enjoyed making. The next one is by far the most tragic of all the deaths, and the most frustrating of all the deaths. He was the mousefolk rogue Waldrik. I wanted to play Reapercheap. Reapercheap's cool. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play him for very long because he got pushed through a window by one of his compatriots, and the window had a bunch of soldiers on the other side, and so he died in the first round of combat of the entire session. Got to play him for about 5-10 minutes. Caleb might say that Yi killed him, and sure, maybe, but Caleb is the one who wouldn't let Yi die, so I'm still blaming Caleb on this one. Because technically Yi killed Muldraq too. I'm still blaming Caleb though. And now we have one you've already met, the halfling bard, Toitress Logblossom. Between Adeline and Toity, it's hard to choose which character I had the most fun with, but Toity is definitely up there. If anything, he's the character I spent the most time with. He's also the one I have the most backstory for, so why not get into it? He was a bit of a mama's boy, youngest of his own siblings. He ended up being a bit of a mediator between them, you know, something I've had no experience with. And he wanted to give his mom a better life, so he left for the city to become a diplomat. When he got there to apply for the position, he was told no, and as he was leaving, found out his mother had passed. So in mourning, he played a dirge for her, which ended up triggering his magical powers. From there, he worked for Lord Navarro, accidentally insulted him, and ended up fleeing to the New World, and that's where the story started. I would like to tell more of his story just because it was fun and I'd like to visit this voice a little bit more. The only problem is there's a lot to the story, a lot of which I don't remember, as you could clearly tell just by hearing me talk about it. But it was fun, and he was a really fun character. Like the voice, like playing a bard. As much as I grew to being tired of being the charismatic character, I'll admit I liked playing it. And maybe I'll get back to it eventually, because it's been a little weird not being the charisma-based character. But we'll see how things pan out from here. I also really like this accent. But here's the thing. If you know anything about the characters I've played, you'd know I haven't mentioned one yet. Because while Toity is by far the favorite character of the ones that has died, he is not the most infamous. Because that would be Grett. Grett was human cleric. I keep trying this voice, but I'm not that good at it. Oh no. Grett is notable not only for something I'll get into later, but being the character that needed to die. And that's mainly due to his voice. See, I tried to do German accent, but the thing is I'm not very good at German accent, so it's not going into Chinese a little bit, as you can kind of hear a little bit. And that's the reason I'm not going to keep doing that voice. But the thing was, that accent led to something that has ended up becoming a Twitch emote for Caleb.
Yep. So it's just a regular roll. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
What are you, one of the three little pigs from Shrek? Like.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, it's just.
So does Grett actually say that when he hits this thing?
Oh yeah, Grett lives on in infamy. But, like you probably could guess, he died. And this one is definitely Caleb's fault. What happened was we found this portal to 2 parallel universes, which I won't get into, and Caleb gave us a dilemma. It was, let the portal stay open and potentially cause havoc to the multiverse, or one of you has to sacrifice yourself. Guess who ended up doing that? So Grett sacrificed himself while saying his catchphrase, and it was glorious. Because not only did he get to live on in infamy, I didn't have to play him anymore. Now, all this being said, these are just the D&D characters Caleb has killed. He's certainly killed more than that in just the other random games we've played. He's killed me in Fiasco, he's killed me in Roll for Shoes, and then he killed me in Show Tunes, when technically I was a disembodied voice from the future. Still killed me. I am the Sean Bean of our group, and I'm probably not even remembering all of them. In case you're wondering, let me clarify a few things. We have had other deaths in our campaigns besides just me, but they've been allowed to live after that. Darius, Jordan's character, died 2 or 3 times, and he was still around at the end. Alyssa's character, Sayori, died twice, I think, and she kept getting brought back. And Emily had a character, Yi, who Caleb literally would not let die, no matter what happened. But that's neither here nor there. I still like playing, it's still fun, and D&D is more interesting when it has stakes. So, I forgive you, Caleb. There is, however, still one more character we need to talk about. The pink Dragonborn Druid,
Qrkldrth. I honestly can't say much about Deli so far because it hasn't come up in the story yet, and I don't want to spoil things. The things of note are that she really likes animals, and at one time tortured a person. Yeah, it was kind of messed up.
I'll turn off my voice to spare your ears for now. You may have also noticed that I said pink Dragonborn. That was not a mistake, she's pink. I can't really say why, but we'll just say that she's a wild magic druid, so I think you can put 2 and 2 together. The basic idea for this character came by the idea of a wild magic sorcerer who would vomit out their spells. The problem with that is sorcerers are a charisma-based class, and I didn't want to play a charisma-based class again. I wanted to try something different. This is part of the reason I played Boodsy, because I wanted to try out the idea of a ranger or a druid and see what I liked about them. And I ended up liking the idea of druid, but I also still wanted to do wild magic. So we found this thing online for a homebrew for a wild magic druid. We added our own tweaks to it a little bit here and there for like spell regeneration and whatnot to make it a little more useful. I'll put a link to it down in the description for anyone who might want to use it. I really can't say more about her because not a lot has come up. The only thing I can really think of saying is we finished off the last season with everyone going off to a ball, and Deli said,
Nope, not going.
Oh, and the fact that she eats magic items to recharge her magic. For reasons I can't explain. But yeah, she might die, but that's what you get for playing wild magic. But I'm enjoying playing her in the meantime. It's a little weird not playing a charisma-based character, but I like it. Anyway, thanks for watching. This has been fun. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, I won't see the dislike, so you might as well leave a like anyway. This has been Seth. This has been a thorn in my side. Join us for season 2 of Terra Invicta once it starts. Cause oh boy.
It's gonna get weird.
Here has some qualms about working for me, I'm sure, but I'm willing to pay you much, much more handsomely than Lavinia is. I can guarantee you that.
Good, we don't want ugly money.
Why do I feel like all the things that Seth is saying is still stuff that Deli would say?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I play me in this game.
We had some good come from it still.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. Yeah.
Toity got a good ending, which honestly is more than some of my other characters have gotten, like getting bit in half or stabbing himself to close portal.
Grett had a great ending. I don't know what you're talking about.
I still miss
Oh
Grett.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Grett was so fun to play.
Wait.
What?
I got to spam it in chat. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I still miss Grett.
Grett was pretty.
Which one to choose? Which one to choose?
Oh, Jordan, why?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have control over your character, Adeline, but you have an overwhelming urge to eat the flesh. What? Darius, it's your turn.
I hate you so much right now, Caleb.
I
If you
know you
killed
do.
Ari, I would have been fine with
I
it.
know
Do not
you
kill
do.
Butt.
I know. Just
Okay.
yes, feel the anger. Good.